This girl has no manners. She would always say she may have a pretty face, but she behaves like a gutter snipe. Not that I gave a button what she thought. Father was paying her enough, so I thought it was best to make her work for her wages. She may have found me irritating, but certainly wasn't boring. Well, I suppose it's fine. Then I could call. Can I think of a name for you? Yes, it doesn't bother me. Anything would be better than Toma. Well, let me see. Emily looks at me up and down, one finger against her lower lip. Her smile is teasing and her eyes flash mischievously like a naughty schoolgirl's in an Enid Blyton story. She will be talking about condensed milk and tinned sardines next, I'm sure of it. It's true, we do not know one another very well, but this is just the present. I feel that we could become quite close even if given the chance. You remind me so much of her, after all. Can it be a mere coincidence? Her? I thought so from behind too, but when you turned her about, it became clearer than ever. You have her nose and her eyes, maybe even her forehead too, but it's hard to tell since it's all covered in hair. Well, I look at the ground suddenly awkward and dig the tip of my school shoe into the earth. I shift my right foot slightly, making a small indentation in the earth, a mini grave for an ant. I don't know if I like being compared to other people. I do that enough myself. Even if I do look like one of your friends, I don't think I want their name. I was hoping for a name of my own. Yes, of course. You do not need to worry about that. I will never be so callous as to dress you in a title of another. I apologize if it seemed that way. She does sound sorry too, truly sorry. Even if you look like her, you're not her. You couldn't be. It is not possible. A sigh. So let me see. A name for you. A name that belongs to you and only you. Only you? Sorry, looking into a random Thai GL show. Ah, I think I have it. From now on, you can be Veridity? Or is that Veridity? Yeah, Veridity. I'm just gonna say Veridity. It's just easier for me to say. Veridity? Do you like it? It's pretty, much prettier than my real name. Emily smiles, her face flushing, though more it doesn't really flush. I just imagine that it does, with happiness. I'm so glad. I thought that the virtue names might be too anachorist nowadays, but I truly am fond of them. Anachronistic, whoops. Anachronistic. It's been a while since I heard that word, bro. The last time I heard of those words was like back in like high school, watching. Anarchy. I guess, yeah, probably high school. But still, anyways. Oof, I got chills thinking about high school. Just kidding, it wasn't that bad. It was actually really nice. I just thought, oh, I hated homework. But yeah, enough about me. One of my aunts was called Charity, and my grandmother was Patience. Not that she was particularly patient. She used to hit my father for the smallest of the misdemeanors when he was a young boy. But that was a long time ago. Her face darkens, but only for a few moments. At any rate, I'm curious, why are you in a gloomy place like this in such an hour when you should be at school? I wonder too. At any rate, I'm curious, why are you in a gloomy place like this at such an hour, when you should be at school? That's a good ass question. Oh, I just like graveyards, I guess. They're relaxing. Relaxing? That is quite the strange thing to say. Why do you think that? I'm not too sure. I just like them. They're nice and quiet. People don't come here much. When they do, they're quiet too. It's the respectful thing to do. Apart from the local boys who tramp about here, drunk on Friday nights, and piss on the headstones and sprawl rude words on them. Oh yeah, there's some bitches who actually do that shit, and it's like really saddening. I glance at the nearby grave and of an Elijah or Alicia. Is that Elijah or Alicia? Pharaoh. Somebody has scrawled across the top of it in black marker pen. God is dead. Really concerning. Well, it seems we have a Bansky of our own living in the Barrowway. Who would have thought? A Bansky? My goodness. And I was thinking of stories too, and I like to give stories too. Stories? Yes, graves are small, and the people buried underneath them are turned into names and dates, nothing more. I think there must be more to these people than that, though. What were their parents like? Did they have any siblings? What was their job? Were they happy? All about the people they meet, whose lives they may have changed without them even realizing. I don't know all about those things. I never will. It's fascinating, but at the same time, it's a little sad. I blush, my hands hanging limply at my sides. Did I say too much? I think I might have said too much. This is why I don't talk to people at school, other than Hadi, because I'm weird, and I know my fellow classmates, Emily Hargreaves and Emily Turner included, would just laugh at me. Oh, maybe Amelia wouldn't. Amelia's too nice to laugh at anybody. That's what I think anyway. It probably sounds stupid though. No, I think you made some good points. I did? Yes, every nice person has a story. There's not enough space on a single tombstone to tell it. The sad truth is, there are so many people in this world, it is not possible to remember every single story. As the years go by, they fall by the wayside, and the dead must always concede to whims of the living, even in places like this. Emily looks back at Alicia, Pharaoh's grave, decorated with biting political commentary, God is dead, and sighs. I like thinking of stories too. In fact, I could tell you a story of my own. I've been turning it over in my head for quite some time, and I would be intrigued to hear your response. I wouldn't mind. Are you quite sure? I don't want to bore you. I can't remember the last time anybody wanted to hear what I had to say. No, I'm quite sure. I would love to. There was nothing else I wanted to do here anyway. Nothing other than wander, trying to avoid thinking about school next Monday, and how much trouble I'll be in when it's discovered I've been playing truant. I always run away from my problems. I have done ever since I was a child. I must have inherited that admirable trait from my dad. Well then, if you want to follow me. Oh, where we going, bruh? Where we going? Emily turns, her hair fluttering, and slips through the graveyard like a shadow. Where we going, bruh? I follow her, curious yet cautious, as she leads me behind the church, where the trees are thicker and there are even more graves. She draws my attention to the tombstone, just one tombstone of many. It juts out like grass, like a tooth from a gum, slightly crooked. A few cracks run down the dark grey sides, and the top of the graveyard is fringed with pale yellow lichen. The name engraved into the tombstone is a little difficult to see and pressed only shallowly, and I have to strain my eyes to read it through the fog. I didn't explore the graveyards in the Lincolnshire in my youth for nothing, though I'm more skilled than most teenagers when it comes to reading inscriptions on gravestones. Here lies the body of Philip Burns, 1807-1851. Also, Perdita Burns, wife of the above, 1811 through 1851. Damn, they were young. Also, Emmeline Burns, their beloved daughter, 1836 to 1850. Damn. May their souls rest in peace. I shift suddenly uncomfortable. Graveyards don't usually make me uncomfortable, but there's something about this tombstone that strikes a discordant note within me. Something here just isn't right. They all died in the same year? Was it like an accident? They did indeed, all the same day too. I turn away from the grave in the final remnant of unfortunate Burns family, and bite my lower lip. When I next speak, my voice is barely a whisper, even quieter than the wind. How do you know that? It's just a story. I already told you that. I suppose so, but when Emily said it, it didn't sound like a story. She sounded deadly serious. She looks serious too. Her eyes are narrowed, her lips pursed, her face stark as white, as though carved from stone. The fog swirls about us like a veil. It's even thicker than it was earlier this morning. I could taste the fog at the back of my throat when I inhale and cough. It tastes cold, rank, and repulsive. The taste of death. Just who is Emily anyway? She doesn't look like any girl I know. She doesn't act like any girl I know. I was almost tempted to believe that that would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? So should I tell you my story? I must warn you though, it's rather dour. Then again, given our setting, what other kind of story could it be? You should already know how it ends. Ooh, we're back to this like a little book setting. What is this? I guess I'll read this in regular monologue. Oop. Or maybe I'll read it in her voice. Emmeline Burns, born in 1836 to Philip and Perdita Burns, led a charmed life. Her family was rather well-to-do, her father being a lawyer and her grandfather being a lawyer and her father a banker. And she grew up in a large house with 5 bedrooms on the outskirts of Barrowby. Given her father's profession, he was often away in London on business. But this did not upset Emmeline. She was old enough to understand that her father needed to work so they could afford her nice house, her fine clothes and ribbons she wore in her hair, so she did not complain. Though she did not see her father for months at a time. When he returned home, it was always with a present for Emmeline and a kiss on her cheek. It was as though he had never been away at all. Philip was a kind man. He may not have been a paragon of manly virtues. He's the runt of the litter. He were a pig. We would have drowned him in the well. Grandmother Patience always gripped. He was not naturally predisposed to the world of financing, but he did have a good head on his shoulders. And he was relatively intelligent. Not even grandmother's Patience could deny that. It was though his quick wits rather than his magnetic charisma of which he was sorely lacking, and Philip had been able to expand upon the Burns family's fortune, and he had invested a good deal of their money into the stock market. Pretty good, I guess, stock market. I'm gonna take a little break. Sorry I took a break from voices real quick. I guess I'll just read it in my normal voice. I was debating, but yeah, I'll just read it in my normal voice. Emmeline really did love her father despite his lack of presence in her life. Or maybe because of it. They do say, after all, that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Even when Philip was not at home, Emmeline had a great deal to busy herself with, and she was never bored or lonely. She would help her mother with her embroidery, or exchange idle gossip with the servants, or go for long walks about the countryside, eating blackberries from the hedgerows and snagging her dress on brambles. Emmeline's long-suffering governess, Helen Warren, certainly had her hands full when it came to disciplining her rowdy pupil. Though Emmeline was not unintelligent, she had not been born with the disposition of a sea captain or a polar explorer. She was physically incapable of sitting still for 5 minutes. That is, unless she was with Cornelia Linton. Emmeline and Cornelia had known one another since they were both babies. They were almost inseparable, but they spent most of their waking hours together, sitting by the lakeside in the Linnens' private estate. They would stare out across the untroubled waters, which carried along with it lily pads, reeds, and fish with shimmering scales. And they would talk, sipping raspberry lemonade. Everyone in the Barrelby knew that the lake in the Linnens' estate belonged to Cornelia and Emmeline. They had claimed it through the countless hours they had whiled away by those grassy banks, feeding the fish and dipping their bare toes into the water. The lake was their private land, a secret garden everyone knew, but nobody would intrude upon. And so it was that Emmeline and Cornelia spent the summer months together, basking under the sunshine. Oh. It's not the same girl. Isn't that Emily? Wait. No wonder. Oh, okay, I can kind of see what's going on here now. So, how's your embroidery coming along? Cornelius pouted, giving Emmeline a little shove in the shoulder. Oh, please, don't ask me about my embroidery. You know better than anybody how dreadful I am. I have no hand-eye coordination whatsoever. Emmeline giggled, returning Cornelia's shove with one of her own. I do not understand why you can be that terrible at sewing, Nellie. It is hardly a science. It may not be simple for you, but it's not for me. It may be simple for you, but it's not for me. Engaging in an activity I have no talent for is incredibly disheartening, and I have to keep poking myself with a needle. Oh, let me see. What? No! Cornelia's pouts deepened, and she held her hands behind her back, attempting to hide them. Why do you wish to see my hands anyway? Do you want to gloat? Me gloat? I would never. I just want to see the wounds that have been dealt to you despite your best efforts, my dear Cornelia. So, may I applaud you for your bravery? Forgive me for being so cynical, but I suspect you may be making fun of me. Of course I'll forgive you. You cannot help your cynicism, given your father's fancies himself as a philosopher. It must run in your family. Indeed it does. Indeed he does. Our library is full of Hegel and Kant, though I doubt he understands it. My mother says he just wants to show off at dinner parties. How is he able to show off if he cannot understand the material he speaks of? It's nothing more than bluster. Mother says he pretends is one of the key traits of a man must possess if he wishes to be successful in this world. My father is an earnest man. He could not lie in his life if it depended on it, especially not about philosophy. Oh, that's why Mother worries about you, Emmeline. She has said as much before. She does not concern herself with my family. We may not be as rich as you, but what we lack in wealth, we make up for with raw talent. Are you saying I have no talent? I'm saying it is somewhat sad that a 14-year-old girl, such as yourself, still cannot sew a single comforter. Hey! Cornelia, who had let her guard slip, as she pondered her father's ill-fated attempts to ingratiate himself with the intelligentsia of the age, tried to obscure her hands behind her back once more, but it was already too late. What are you doing, Emmy? I'm examining your hands, as I said I would. And oh dear. Emmeline tutted and shook her head, her fingers linked together with Cornelia's. They are such beautiful hands with such smooth skin, yet they are all marked over with red dots. It appears as though you have been used as a human pincushion. I already told you, Emmy, I have no skills when it comes to sewing. Why must you tease me so? I was not teasing you. I was honoring your efforts. That is a bald-faced lie. We both know it. If you have an ounce of respect for me, you would not be smiling like that. Like what? Like that. Now let go of me. But Emmeline did not. Instead, she continued to stand there, skirts fluttering about her legs, attempting to peer into Cornelia's grumpy little face with undisguised amusement. Emmy, I told you to let go. Why do you never listen to me? Because seeing you blush is so much fun, of course. Emmy! If Cornelia had the use of both her hands, she would have struck the top of Emmeline's head for her insolence. As it was, she did not, and all she could do was glare and blush. Cornelia blushed a lot. That was one of the downsides of having such fair skin, that when she poked herself with a sewing needle, she was so prone to doing, the red welts that resulted stood out starkly against her milky complexion. Why are you acting so coy, Nellie? I know you enjoy my company, really. Be as it may, you are behaving rather childishly right now. I have no desire to indulge your whims. Honestly? Honestly. Even if those whims are your own as well? Well, Cornelia let her head hang, her face turning just a shade darker. This was not the first time that the two girls had held hands. They had been friends ever since they were small, and they were not unfamiliar with the sensation of the other's skin. In fact, they were more well-versed with one another's bodies than one might have expected. Though their mothers would have scolded them for the unladylike manner which they compared themselves when left alone by the lakeside, they would have been scandalized to learn of the other, more intimate actions that had taken place between the two girls. What? So forbidden, Eureka. Back in the old days, it had only been a month or so when, drunk on the lazy heat of the encroaching summer, the two girls had slowly, lackadaisically shared their first kiss. Not a kiss on the cheek or a temple, as they had done during their babyhood, but a true kiss typically shared between adults of the opposite sex. Neither of them knew who had instigated the kiss, or why they had lingered for so long in such a manner, their lips pressed together, but both agreed after the fact that they had liked it. It had just felt right. As such, without giving these moments of intimacy too much thought, the two girls had continued to display their affection for one another in such a manner all through the summer of 1851. It may have been uncommon for two women to exchange such kisses and caresses, but what of it? Why should they not kiss one another if they wanted to? The lakeside was their own private haunt, their secret garden, and nothing could intrude upon them there, not even so-called common decency. That was the other question. Why should it be indecent? Emmeline did not understand. She loved Cornelia, and Cornelia loved her. And was that not enough? Even if it was not enough for the rest of the world, it was more than enough for her. Oh, I zoned out for a sec.